Now, let me just step aside for a moment and say I've been very disappointed as a Canadian in the last few years at the very fast and loose way the term colonialism has been thrown around, along with its first cousin, decolonialization. The term is used very freely and indiscriminately in a rather unilateral way, undifferentiated and often undefined, but basically the bottom line is that it was an evil that has to be eradicated and in fact is symbolic of everything that is dysfunctional in our way of life. Now, I wouldn't argue in certain instances that that's right. Clearly, the process of truth and reconciliation we're going through has forced us to address some of the dysfunctional side of colonialism that we are now shedding. We weren't alone in this. This same spread of colonial racial values and hierarchy, that the white races were better than the indigenous races, etc. We in Canada today are, I would hope, dedicated to erasing that kind of smudge of colonialism. However, my point tonight is that this reconciliation is not, as it has been of late, should not be allowed to blind us to the ongoing beneficial influence of other profoundly constructive elements of colonialism. At the core of our society's emergence has been the persistence of colonial guiding principles that anchor our democracy to this day and make it widely envied around the world. Let me just foreground the three things that I think are central to this: the rule of law, the separation of the judicial, legislative, and executive branches of government, and finally, the durability of representative government. And here I want to argue that the installing, the embedding of these values in our way of life was very much responsible, was the product of what I call the Macdonaldian system, attitudes put in place by Macdonald and those he gathered around them. There are no glorious battles here, just the steady working out of a Tory mind, respectful of tradition, but increasingly aware of the need for progress through inclusion and tolerance. And I would argue that this Macdonaldian system and these three values I'm talking about are with us today.